Yep. Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage and the AX Sport project. The previous video was supposed to be a will it run video. I didn't call it that because it didn't start up. And it feels a little bit wrong to call the video will it run if it doesn't, even though it is a question. But you might be able to tell already now whether this is going to be a success or not, because who knows what this video is called, but I hope it's called Will It Run. Watch the previous video if you want to know at what point I am right now. I've done a little bit of work since the last video, which was actually recorded yesterday, and that is I removed the starter. That's the bits from the starter. Being Seaside Garage, I do not want to replace parts if I can fix them. Not generally speaking, at least. So of course I took it out and took it apart, because very often it's just a matter of cleaning the contacts. I had a feeling the contacts were all right because the clicking sound was really powerful. But the starter motor didn't really want to turn. Once in a while it did turn. I did not manage to catch that on video in the previous video, but a couple of times it clicked and then like a very, very flat battery. But the battery was fine. I didn't want to continue to try to just get it on camera because it was hard on the wiring. It got quite hot. So something was drawing a lot of power. Anyway, I took this apart just to see if I could save it. And then I saw this and decided I needed a new starter motor for this. It's very cheap, the starter motor. So yeah, take a look at this. The magnets inside of there should be evenly spaced, but they are not stuck in there anymore. They are actually loose. Yeah, as you can see, this is not only loose, it's also cracked. It's actually all of them. Oh, the top one is all right. So yeah, it's toast. It's completely toast. It could be rebuilt, of course, but it's not worth to do. I got a new one very cheaply, and here it is. I'm gonna fit this to the car and take you back when that is done. It's a very fiddly place, so I'm not gonna attempt to film it. It's not very interesting either, but I'm gonna fit this and then take you back, because then I want to change the spark plugs and one other thing, and then give it another go. Oh, the smell of burnt electronics in the morning. So I just put in the new starter motor and it spins. So that's really nice, fast and all that. What I want to do, there's no spark plugs in it, by the way, so that's the reason why it's that fast. Otherwise it would probably indicate a compression issue. It's time to put in a new set of spark plugs. The old one are a bit black. I tried to clean them up, but yeah, I just got a fresh set. Because I have a feeling, and also watching the previous video where I tested for spark, it actually misfired a couple of times. I just didn't notice before editing. So I don't think the spark plugs are totally up for the task, and it's a wear item on all cars, but even more so on these sport engines with the carburetor. So I'm gonna change them with a fresh set of Bosch plugs. Someone mentioned checking the timing. Because of that fact that the cam belt was one tooth out, maybe someone did some kind of old school tuning to this and also probably adjusted the timing for that. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility. But actually I got in contact with the guy who owned it back in 2008. I'm going to call him one day and get the full story of what he knows and what he remembers. He didn't remember anything about the cam belt being out, on purpose at least, but he couldn't remember, of course. The funny thing is that he just recently got very interested in AX Sports again, and currently he got 3 of them in Denmark. Hopefully I will visit him sometime and see his collection of them, and he probably also have some spares that I could probably use. And a funny thing, I really don't like the rear muffler on this, on the back box, but it is a Super Sprint, and he was really interested in getting that back, and yeah, he can have that for sure. I hope he got the old seat, or maybe some other parts for this. Probably not, it's 20 years ago, but still. Spark plug in. Like this. And I also bought a new oil pressure sensor. I'm gonna go ahead and take that out also and replace it. And here we have the oil pressure sensor. And a way to check them, at least this kind, is to take the DVOM in the mode where it beeps and touch the outside of the threads, for instance, or the bolt, and then the prong out here, nothing. But there should be continuity between these 2 points, because this is the ground feed for the light on the dash. So it gets a positive feed and the ground feed from this. And as soon as pressure goes into that hole right there, that continuity will be broken and the light will go out. Here's the new sensor, touching the body. There we go. So with this in, I will know if the pressure is above that threshold that it's set to, and I don't know what that is, but that's normally the minimum required oil pressure. So you won't know if the oil pressure is high enough at higher RPMs and so on, but you will know if it's below specification at idle, pretty much. That's why that sometimes on engines that are on their way out, or the sensors, by the way, you will get a flickering oil light at idle, but if you give it just a little bit of throttle, the light will go out. That could indicate that the oil pressure is starting to be too little at idle, but that will affect the entire range. It could be catastrophic at higher RPMs. But don't panic if you see the oil light do that, because very often it's sensor issues. So with that in, and the connector reconnected, I should have an oil light on the dash when I put it on, when I put it in ignition, because I did test the wire in the previous video. Just by grounding the wire to the block, the light lit up. So that should be good. But to know for sure, let's go into the dash and check. Yep, oil light up there. Funnily enough, the water temperature also lit up. Not sure I can explain that, but the oil pressure lamp is at least working now. Wonder if it started to work on the key also. Nope. There's still a wiring issue going to the starter. Not an issue necessarily though, because one thing I noticed also in the previous video is that right there, an LED light. And this right there, micro car alarm, SUS made security. So there's probably a anti-theft system installed in this, which is probably going to be a very simple one, because it's a very simple car, this. There is no ECU controlling much. So the easiest way would of course be some kind of way to just disconnect the wire going to the starter motor. That way it won't start, unless you push start it of course, but a thief maybe wouldn't know that. But I wonder if the fuses are up there. What a horrible place to get to them. But I can see that there is actually a wire coming from that LED line. It's just cut all the way right here, because I was actually expecting this to be a fake alarm system still. And still I am inclined to believe that, because, yeah, if you just have a light and it flashes sometimes or just lights all the time, and that sticker, that could work back in the days. So maybe that's the case. It really would be nice though to be able to start this car using the key. Okay, so I decided to try to hunt down this issue with the starter signal not going from the key ignition to the starter. So I started to trace down wires. And a lot of stuff has been done in this engine bay, and a lot of stuff needs to be undone in the future, but wires is all over the place. I got wires all over the place, not connected, and household wires, and yeah. But what I did was I took off the wire going to the starter, which is this one, very thick, wrong connector and all that. Anyway, I then connected my multimeter to that, and then took the DVOM onto the beep thing, like that. And then I could just trace the wire, and I followed it a little bit, and then it disappeared into the loom down there. And then I noticed right there, that is the reverse switch in the gearbox that will turn on the reverse light when you put it in reverse. Those are also not the correct wires, the thick one. It looks like the other end, to the wire that I just found. And you see the loose connectors right there? That looks like something that goes onto a reverse switch, to be honest. And went down there and touched firstly one side, and as you can hear, there's continuity. Not on the other side though, but if I remove the connector on the other side of that plug and connect the DVOM to that, put this one onto voltage mode, put the other connector on a ground, or into the interior, turn the key, watch the DVOM while I turn the key. There's 12 volt on the other end. So yeah, I'm sorry about this. I know it doesn't look great, but it's really a nice thing to have when you are inside an engine bay looking for wires like this. But it turns out that even though I was told that this car ran when it was parked, and I do trust the buyer, the guy I bought it from, he told me all he knew, I'm sure of it. But at one point someone took the wires off and put the feed from the ignition into the reverse switch. Hello, this is me from the future, but I'm from the past for you guys. But the guy I just saw is a little bit younger than me. This is 5 hours later, and we all know that wisdom will grow over time. And I just realized that this could be on purpose. It could be a very crude anti-theft device, because if I'm right, I'm pretty sure that system, that setup would work if you put the car in reverse before turning the key. So it's almost like a Saab. It has to be in reverse to be started. I think it's on purpose. All I need to do is to connect the two wires going onto the reverse switch together and fit the other ones that are actually for the reverse switch onto that. And then we should get a working starter. And yep, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed and checked and altered and reverted back to original, and hack jobs that needs to be unhacked and so on. And I know some would say, you shouldn't touch a car like that, it's too messed with already. But honestly, I like this. I think this is part of the charm of reviving cars with a history. It's not just a matter of looking in the factory manual to fix it. You will also have to do a bit of thinking. For instance, this was a really weird mistake of issue because it wasn't meant to be. Because it was just a mistake. So with this wire now connected out here, I'm just going to check if it works just by giving it a blip. I don't want it to start because I would like to start it still using the remote starter, because that way I can see what's going on in the engine bay. But it's nice to know that it works, so let's just see. Battery on, of course. Exciting. Just a quick kick with the starter. Yep. It just fired up instantly. And of course it shut off when I turned the key back off. Should I just go for it? You know what? I'm gonna start it from the car because I can stand out here. Of course, if I need to give it some throttle and so on, I would probably have to sit in the car or go to the carburetor so I can pull the strings. But I want to keep an eye out for potential fuel leaks and fires and so on. But that initial it just makes me think that maybe it's not going to be that hard now. I'm going to put the exhaust extractor on. Got my fire starter ready. Let's see what happens if I pull that key again. I'm just gonna go ahead and check if the choke is on or off right now, because I'm not even sure. It's on. Just gonna put it slightly on. It's getting so close now. torque from the tubular exhaust. But it's running. Just trying to heat it up a bit to make it idle. The choke sounds crazy when it's applied. So aggressive. It likes to rev. Seppo from the future once again. The previous owner wrote to me after filming this video that he suddenly remembered that it had to be in reverse to be started, so he knew about that. But another thing he told me was that it's very, very hard to start and the idle is very lumpy. As you can see, it's very easy to start and the idle is not that lumpy. So I think that tooth out cam belt is the reason for that. Interesting stuff. So will it run? Yep. And it sounds so evil. I knew that this engine was modified and I knew that the flywheel was lightened, the cams and all that. But it really sounds mean and it picks up revs like a motorbike. It's really punchy. It's going to be a lot of fun this. This is just the first step of a long revival of everything on this car. I like to change the radiator, the fan, the valve cover gasket, the carburetor gaskets and so on. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. This is by no means the goal. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, a lot of parts that needs to be sourced and so on. So I don't know when the next video will come, but the next video will probably be a wash and clean of this car. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget you can support me. There's a Patreon link down below and a link to the shop where you can buy the Revive Drive t-shirts, and see you in the next one.
Oh,